All right, welcome back. We're talking about how to make a plan to have a successful event. We want to help you crush it. We want to help you go in and have absolutely awesome results at any trade shows, outdoor marketing, vendors, markets, conferences, whatever it may be. We're going through the 3 steps in a fun little mini series and hitting home. We're going deep in stuff that, frankly, 99% of business owners never get this stuff. We worked with huge international brands and marketing firms from around the world, and we understand what it is that they do and why those brands have gotten to be so big. We've also figured this stuff out doing it for ourselves, and now we're here to share it with you. So there's 3 steps that have to go into the plan. Number one, how do you attract them into your booth? That was in the last video that I talked about. If for some reason you didn't see that or you didn't watch it, I'd really recommend going back and watching that one first before you watch this, because in that we talk about how the display is the piece that the real conversation starters, the piece that people are walking by and they're like, I think I want to connect with these guys. And I shared my example of how we did the marketing professionals event, and we went in with a clear message, and it was so busy, and we got a ton of leads. We had like 40 or 50 leads from just a few hours of work there. I mean, it's ridiculous the ROI of offline marketing when you're going and doing events. So we talked about attract, which was the goal of an event is to his conversations that turn into leads, customers, and sales, and how you attract them to your booth. It is the attract part. It's what starts the conversation. Now we're going to talk about convert. This is the conversation. See, the goal is to turn the person you're talking to into a lead, customer, or sale, but you can't be salesy. It's an art form to do this really successfully and nail it. In the next video, we'll talk about follow-up, how 80% of your results happen after the event. Follow-up is so important, and it's really going to make or break the success of the event. So for now, part 2, convert. See, this is a sales conversation. And oftentimes, either you've done it enough where you get unconsciously good at it, you just naturally are good because you've talked to your clients so much that you don't even think about it and you're just good at it, right? Which is great. But even in that case, oftentimes there can be little tweaks and little adjustments to the way that you go into it to achieve the goals of the conversation. Now, on the flip side, I also see a lot of times businesses put people in, excuse me, that aren't used to having those sales conversations. They're like, hey, can you just go there and give away some information? And that is so the worst thing that anybody can do. In my opinion, it's almost like don't even bother attending. If you can't, I'm not saying you have to be there, but whoever's going to be there has to understand the outline of a good sales conversation. So here's the basic outline that we use, although we go deeper into all of these pieces, but this is really it. So when we help somebody build a script or build an outline, we go through and we'll actually write out the key pieces based on the audience. Because remember, we've used a certain message to attract people in. Now we want to have a conversation that, number one, creates rapport. You got to get in alignment. They got to feel that with you. You know how it is. You talk to someone, and you're just like, oh, it feels stinky, and you don't dig the vibe. You don't want to sit around. You don't care what they have. Versus somebody you're like, oh my gosh, I could talk to this person all day. So how you create rapport is by aligning with where they're at. The conversation has to solve their problem, super clear. You've got to build trust through credibility. That's a key one. And then create motivation and urgency. So get them to go, oh, I've got to do this and I've got to do it now. Instead of like, oh, that's kind of cool, maybe one day. And then also handling objections on the spot. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll give you an example talking about our trade show displays. So our trade show displays, when we talk to somebody, so I can think of a call recently, being out talking with somebody recently, and they were like, oh yeah, we're thinking about trade show, and I told them what I said in the last video about how it's 86% more likely to buy to whatever. And so we got talking about our products and some prices and stuff. And I said straight up, I said, we're not one of the cheapest suppliers out there. We're not. But here's what I can tell you what to look out for. Some of those cheap suppliers, they don't guarantee their products. And they don't guarantee that it's going to look the same as it does on your monitor. So you may get it and the color may be wrong. And they may tell you you have to have it reprinted. We also do lifetime warranty. And a lot of companies don't offer lifetime warranty. And so I started talking about that. And then I talked about, actually, I said that, but I didn't say that first. So the first thing that I said was, I asked her what her goals were. And she was like, well, I want to get more leads. They wanted to attract more people. They had a business, and I don't want to go into their specifics, but they had a business where it was getting people into the store for them. And so I said, okay, I get it. So the first piece, and I went through the attract bit, and I talked about how we help people solve that problem at the event. How we help people get super clear on their plan, exactly what's going to go on the displays. We make great displays, and then I told her about all the differences between the displays and lifetime warranty. So if they break it, no matter what, we cover products forever. And I went into all these pieces, and then I had talked about the objections, right? The possible price concern, where I was like, look, like you got to pay attention to what you're buying, because we get horror stories all the time. People call us and they're like, oh my God, I'm so disappointed. I bought somewhere else and it just was garbage. And by the end of the conversation, she was like, oh my gosh, she was like, thank you for sharing all that. She's like, I would have had no idea. And if I was just looking at prices, I may have gone with the cheapest thing that I saw, and it would have been a ripoff. And I'm like, I know, I get it. We have these calls all the time. We don't want to be the cheapest supplier. We want to deliver. We want to help people crush their goals. We want to build relationships that people come back and they're like, oh my God, I want to work with you forever. And that's what we do. And there are a lot of companies that charge a lot more than us, and in my opinion, they don't deliver to the rate that we do. Can you relate to everything that I just said about your business? Right? So do you feel that way? Do you feel that you have something great, that maybe you're not the cheapest in your industry? Do you even want to be the cheapest? Because to be cheap, you got to cut corners. Like there's a reason. You get what you pay for in some cases, right? So you want to be able to have that conversation with somebody that shows them how you're going to solve their problem, and how you're going to, solve their problem, build trust through credibility. So when I talk to somebody, I talk about how we ship thousands of products all over North America. I talk about the brands that we work with and all of those pieces that have led us to have this, where these brands come back, like LG Electronics. We're doing a huge project for them right now. They've been buying from us for, I think, 6, maybe 7 years consistently. But then at the same time, startups and entrepreneurs, we support them, and we're price conscious, that we have the volume to be able to at least to be reasonable on our cost. And so we talk about that too. And then creating motivation, creating urgency is oftentimes a tricky one. It's one that this is where I think most times people struggle, is they've done maybe the other parts, and then it's how do you get the person to act right now? And that's a key when you really got to think about, and you have to understand who you're talking to and what is going to create motivation or urgency. So for me, I usually think about, like, okay, what can this look like? Painting the picture of what the future is when you solve their problem, and what is the cost if you don't. So if I'm talking to somebody about trade show displays and I want to create motivation or urgency, I may say, look, like, this event could be so successful for you that what is it going to look like? Like, how many leads do you really need for this to be a super successful event? And oftentimes people are like, I don't even need that many leads. If I could just get a handful, it would be a great event. And I'm like, look, we can get you like usually hundreds when you go to the right event. What is that like? And so, paint that picture. That's how great it could be. And then on the flip side is, can you afford not to? You know? Like, can you really afford to take the risk and not buy and not go in with a plan and not have all these things and waste all your time and waste your money? Because we've been in that place. Cash flow struggles and the continual grind, and trying to, go do stuff and do marketing, and it doesn't work. And so it's like not being afraid to paint the picture of what the cost could be as well. Especially if you feel that you have something great that people really need, you've got to be able to create that motivation for them that makes them go, okay, I want to do this. We were speaking with somebody that was helping women that were having a hard time with pregnancy, and there was some alternative methods that a lot of people didn't know about. And frankly, I had no idea of. And so it's like, I look at it like, you've got something great. People need to know about it. You've got to get that stuff out there. And then at the same time, lastly, is also how you handle objections. Because if people have hidden objections about your product, service, maybe it's time, maybe it's cost, maybe it's accessibility, whatever it may be, you've got to be able to have that conversation up front. Because just because somebody doesn't say to you, oh, I don't know, it seems like too expensive, or I just don't have the time. They may not say that, but they may be thinking that. And you may feel like you had a great conversation. You're like, oh, that was awesome. And they walk away and you have no idea. And so here we talk about like test closes and handling objections and all that kind of stuff. And you really got to sit and build out and create an outline, because it's best with a script or outline to follow for you or for training. So whether it's you or a temp or a receptionist or whatever, and I hear all of it. People get people to run their booth that have no idea of the delivery stuff. At least if you can give them a script or an outline, you can do some training, you can help them out, and you can get them geared up to go have a successful event. So go through those steps, sign them up on the spot when they're motivated. I think this is one of the things, is Don't leave it till later because our motivation, you know how it is, right? Have you ever been in the moment where you're super motivated, you're ready to take action, but then after maybe you change your mind or your motivation goes down or you get on the fence about it? You want to get people when they're in the moment and they're most motivated. And usually one of the best ways to do that is give them a way to back out if they want, right? Like, hey, if you sign up now, you can get this deal, you can get this offer. And then if you're not interested later, that's no big deal. We can just give you a discount. Little things like that, because most people will never back out. Once they're in, right? So you've got to always think about how to sign them up on the spot. So for best results, go through that and really sign them up and get them when they're motivated. I think I had a repeat of a slide there. Um, Now, do you want some help creating this kind of plan for your success? I get it, it can be a little overwhelming, a little confusing where to start. This is what we're here for. This is what we do. We can do a call with you where we just map out the strategy, talk about, okay, where are you? How clear are you? What does that look like? And we can make some recommendations maybe about what your next steps could be, what you could do to improve it, or just help you kind of figure out where you sit. So fill out the form, or you can contact us now if that's the place that you're at and you want to do it, you want to crush this. Then feel free to do that. Our team is awesome, and this is our game. I mean, we get this stuff and we do this with people, and so often we change the way people even look at approaching this, and they come back and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I never even thought that it could be so powerful, so successful." And one of the things that I love to say to people is get ready to do some hiring because when you start blowing up your business and attracting that many people in, you're going to need people on your team. Anyway, the next session, we're going to talk about follow up, which is the last and one of the most important pieces of this whole thing. Um, if you're not interested in reaching out for whatever reason, that's totally cool. Just remember, having a plan is super key. And in this case, we're talking about making sure you have an outline of how you're going to convert people. Have a great conversation, sign them up on the spot. All right, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you at the next session.